Hi, this is Don McAllister and welcome to another Screencast Online tip video. In this week's video, I'm going to show you some of my favourite tips for getting the most out of numbers on the Mac. Now these will range from some basic tips to some a little more advanced, but hopefully some that you've never seen before. So let's dive into my top tips for Apple numbers. So let's start with a quick crash course in the basics of Apple numbers. Now numbers uses both sheets and tables in an individual spreadsheet. So when you create a new spreadsheet, you've got the option to create multiple sheets and multiple tables. And it's a good idea to start using tables rather than just having a huge, great big monolithic spreadsheet. So these are two tables here. It's got one for costs and one for pricing. And you'll see, as with any spreadsheet, you have columns, which are labeled A through to E in this instance, and then rows down the side here, 1 to 8. It's possible to drag on this control here to reduce or increase the number of rows or columns. There are keyboard shortcuts as well, but I tend to just drag on this control. It's much easier. You can create new tables by clicking up here. Different tables you can choose from. I just normally go with the standard one. I can use this control here to drag it around. You'll see that there are also guidelines that help you line up your spreadsheets or your tables rather to make things look really good. And if you want to delete a table with the table highlighted, just hit the backspace key. The sheets are these tabs across the top. So this is sheet 1. I can hit the plus button here and create a brand new sheet. By default, it creates a new table in here and I can switch between them backwards and forwards. I can rename them, delete them, drag them across to change the order, etc. Let's go ahead and delete sheet 2. One thing to bear in mind, which is slightly different if you're used to Excel, is that when you start to reference cells from one table to another, you can't do that from different numbers spreadsheets, different numbers files. You can do it between tables, you can do it between sheets, but you can't do it between different files. I'll sort of show you what I mean by that in a second. Okay, so let's go ahead and start populating this spreadsheet. So over here, I've got some fixed costs. I'm going to put in VAT of 20%, and let's say an hourly rate of £15 per hour. And then over here, I've got a little table which enables me to calculate the price of particular products. And the product is based on the number of hours it takes to produce. So let's say this takes 3 hours to produce this one. Now the cost, I'm going to create a formula. Now to create the formula, basically very simple. I'm just going to multiply the production hours by the hourly rate. So we just hit the equal signs. Now you'll see that it has obliterated the cell. If you want to, you can just drag this around. When you hover over this function symbol here, you can get to functions here, but we'll leave that for now. I can drag that to anywhere on the screen. So I'm going to say my cost is the hourly rate times the production hours. And then hit return, and that gives me my cost. If I want to create my VAT, I'll just say my VAT again equals the cost times 20%, which is £9, and the price, very simple, equals the cost plus VAT. Now we should be able to use autofill to populate the other entries. So if I go to here, product B, say that's 5 hours. Now, before I do this, let me just drag this down a little bit. I want to show you something. I should, in theory, be able to select these cells, use the autofill button, drag down, but you'll see the entries are incorrect. The reason for that is if I open up this formula, you'll see the cost has moved down from B3 to B4, and I didn't want that to happen. So what I need to do, it's very simple to fix that. Let me delete those, is to go into the original formula. So it's the costs. We want to preserve the row and preserve the column. Now, this cell we'll reference that always, even if we copy and paste or fill. And I'll do the same for this one. So we want costs, preserve row, preserve column. And the price cell is fine because it's just adding up these two columns, which is what we want. So if I just go ahead, drag that across, fill down, you'll see that the reference stays the same over here in this table. And I can now do that for all of these. I can fill down for each row and then just pop in my figures for production hours here, and they will all change. Now, the beauty of this is I could, if I needed to, say change the VAT to 15%, and everything in here is recalculated.